Less than 2% of venture capital-backed companies in the world are run by women. Women make up 57% of middle management, but 14% of senior management, so it's clear where they're stuck. More CEOs with the name John than women, so the Premier got to that one. That one just boggled my mind, because I only know a few Johns. And this one kills me. I refer to it as pink sourcing. You know, if you want to outsource and have some cheaper labor costs, hire a woman, because women earn 76 cents for every dollar that a man earns in the identical job with the identical qualifications. So clearly the gap is not qualifications. So it's a bad news story. But there are changes that are coming about that are happening because of technology, and that are being driven because of technology. And what we're seeing now, some of the latest trends, is we're seeing the second generation of online platforms. So we're seeing the Ubers for, we're seeing the eBay for. So we're seeing niche applications of what were the general platforms. And back to what I said earlier, that consumers are demanding the same experience in everything they're doing now. The first company I invested in on Dragon's Den was Uber for prescriptions. And the founder had a strong domain expertise. So we're seeing this rolling out throughout. We're seeing people earning income differently. The next generation, most people in this room, are very likely going to be earning multiple streams of income at the exact same time, because there are so many platforms where they can make jewelry while they're maybe driving an Uber or renting out their spare room on Airbnb. So we're changing these platforms from driving to change in the way we expect to work as well, and the way people will be employed in the future. And that is making changes. And these platforms are demanding new job titles and new roles. We just hired a community manager. There wasn't a community manager for the shop floor and the factory that I ran. So we're starting to see all of these changes happening. And one book I recommend everyone get is written by Kirsten Stewart. She's the CEO of Twitter Canada, and she's written a book called Our Turn. And these are some of the themes from her book about how technology will have a positive impact for women. The first one is a power shift. This goes back to my Mr. Burns slide. It will no longer be just about the hierarchies. Leaders will need to manage out, not down. It won't be about pushing demands downward. It'll be about collaboration. It'll be about networks. It'll be about being open to working with others. And that happens to be something women tend to be very good at. And along with that, this whole David and Goliath, I always felt like David my entire life. I was under-resourced and I was scrappy, but I never had the breadth that the Blockbuster had. And the internet is, because of all those things it is doing, reducing barriers and making it easier, and the way we can communicate, we are recasting this role, and the Davids of society are being put onto pedestals, and they're being called change makers, and they're getting access to everyday consumers online for free. So it's recasting that role, and women traditionally have almost played this David role in corporations. So we're starting to celebrate this a lot more. Number 3 comes back to Mary Barra, the CEO of GM. I don't know if that's why they made her CEO, but she sure said that in her book, that she felt that she was the one that could go in and shake things up and change the culture. And she believes it's because she wasn't in the boys' club so much. She didn't suffer from the groupthink as badly. And so when corporations have this realization, we need to evolve, we need to adopt technologies, or we're going to be the yellow taxi, they very likely will look to women to do that, because women have had historically an ability to transform. I find that when I was younger, I was always in a rush, and I always thought I had to eat, take off the whole piece. And I was afraid to get started until I was fully ready. But I'm still not ready today. And so my first piece of advice I tell everyone, especially people doing startups or trying to start something new, I say, just start anything. And start it very, very small, but you have to start it now. Because I'm sorry, but you will probably mess up. And then you're going to have to change and pivot and continue to change and evolve from there. But if you don't get yourself on the ice, I don't know how you're going to score. And secondly, this is for young girls in particular. These are the 2 things I always struggled with. The first is act as if. That's completely all about confidence. And my first investor taught me that. He said, when I had my second slide showing our future growth to investors, I sort of had I think we're going to go do this and be very conservative. And he said, if you go in and say, if we start this thing, or if I do this, or maybe if it all works out, then it will never work out, and they won't believe you, and no one will come along with you. So you have to act as if. You have to dress for the job you want, and you have to act as if everything's going to be great. And so acting as if is very important as you get started in your career, because if you don't believe yourself, no one else will. And own it is something I struggled with. Believe it or not, I think I remember wearing shoulder pads when I got started in the defense industry, because I was trying to look like a man, I think. I was trying to fit in. I was trying to downplay my differences. And what I've learned since then is I believe that any of the success I've had or we've had at OMX has been because of our differences. So I had to own that. I had to say, I'm a young woman. My team is mostly made up of millennials or people a lot younger than me. And that's our differentiator. And we can bring this to the table. And so I had to learn to own that and stop trying to pretend to be something else.